Yeah, we wait until they put it up here. So good morning everyone, my name is Philipp Geipel. I'm the product owner of the SGT 750, but today I have the pleasure to present to you the entire range of industrial gas turbines from 25 to 70 megawatt. So we will look into three different aspects of the presentation today. The first is a little bit about operational experience and the references. And here we will give you the latest references that we are currently commissioning or have commissioned recently. Then we will show you two case studies in combined power plants, both onshore, offshore, in different application. And then last but not least, we will talk about fuel and emissions, which is also a way to decarbonize the assets you own. So looking in Finspång, Sweden, we manufacture 4 gas turbine types, ranging from 25 to up to 62 megawatts. We have sold about 1,100 units by now. We have 35 million operating hours. And of these 1,100 units, we have about 400 units in oil and gas application. So you can see that oil and gas is a backbone of Siemens Energy. Looking at the recent references, both for the 750, which is our 42 megawatt unit, as well as the SGT 800, which is actually one of the leading units on the planet in the 60 megawatt range. You can see here, for example, 6 examples in total, of which I will deep dive into 2 in the subsequent slides. So if you have a look, recently we commissioned an FPSO in mechanical drive in the Bering Sea. It's the one to the top left of the slide deck. What was the driver here? The driver here was actually both life cycle cost and high efficiency. That was the driver for Equinor to choose actually the SGT 750. Similarly, to the left of it, also offshore, it's the largest offshore at the moment in combined cycle in the world. It's a unit called Barossa. It will be operating in Australia. We are currently commissioning this in Singapore, final days before sail away. Then the lower 4 are actually onshore. And here it's twofold. You can see the lower bottom, the lower 2 is actually 2 ways to decarbonize. You have a modern combined cycle plant, you want one application of oil and gas with steam turbines at the back end. And on the other side, you can see actually backup power, which is for our energy customers very important, but will also be important more towards the oil and gas. And here the decarbonization happens via biofuels. In this term here, via HVO 100. So this is the last bit of the session, which I will talk a little bit and give you a teaser about alternative fuels as well and the capability of our gas turbines. But starting with the 2 case studies in combined cycle and what that actually means for you as customers. So looking at it, so on the left-hand side, you can see typical single cycle. And nowadays, the efficiency of single cycle is or should be above 40%. But this you can boost nowadays if you go towards combined cycle, where we can easily, with our, for example, SGT 800, go above and beyond 60% efficiency. And that is usually heavy-duty efficiency numbers. So not on this scale, so it's one-off in the world at this point in time. What it gives you in return, obviously, your emissions CO emissions is strictly linked to the efficiency. If you can boost the efficiency up, your CO2 footprint is lower during the operation. And here, when you go from about 40 to 60%, you reduce of the order of 30% in CO2 emissions, which is enormous in the long term. Obviously, when you then compare a little bit the cost perspective, yes, the CAPEX is a little bit higher on the combined cycle compared to a single cycle, you need a HRSG, you need a steam turbine, but you get also the benefits of not only having electricity, you might need also thermal energy, which that provides. Footprint-wise, it's actually compact gas turbine, you're very used to that, and from a combined cycle plant, I would call it medium. What Siemens Energy offers you in this case, we are offering the GTG and the steam turbine, and have strong partners to also deliver the entire plant if necessary. Looking then in the first example, and here I mentioned that on the previous slide, this is basically an FPSO. We have 5 SGT-750 plus a steam turbine at the back end. We have an efficiency of beyond 54%. So we boost the SGT-750, which is about 40 to 41%, almost 15%, which is a huge reduction in CO2. So that is one way in order to reduce your CO footprint. When you look at it, it's about 800 million standard cubic feet per day. That is sort of to give you a little bit of feel about the size of the FPSO. The next example I want to add, a little bit about the layout as well. So here you can see the top deck from both sides. So you can see the bypass stacks. These are the 5 shining pipes that you can see at the top, and you know that you see the perfect integration of the SGT-750 in the top deck. On the back end of it, you see the integration of the HRSG and the steam turbine. Obviously, not in a detailed view, but it gives you, from an integration perspective, a feeling what it looks like on a typical top deck. The next example I want to do, which is here in Indonesia, is an onshore example, and here the customer chose to go to a 331 configuration of our SGT 800, the 57 megawatts. Bearing in mind, it's not our largest unit, the largest unit is 62, but 57 is also a very common and actually very strong in the market from a market perspective size. When you look at the bottom, you can see the setup. So you have 3 gas turbines in parallel. You have then a HRSG at the back end, and obviously the generators plus a steam generator a steam turbine at the back end and a generator. So why would a customer do this? Replacing essentially coal-fired power plant or diesel, for that sake, it is CO2 reduction again. So you, by moving from coal-fired power plants or diesel for that sake, the customer could reduce the CO2 footprint by 60% of emissions. And when you look a little bit in the flexibility, because you could say, okay, are we really flexible with the gas turbine? Yes, we are. We have put on the top left, top right, a typical load curve, and how the gas turbine can follow the demand of these arch furnaces, so that the flexibility is there in such a gas turbine configuration, because you can also switch over, for example, to the bypass stack and not having the steam cycle involved, which gives you a lot of flexibility. But bearing in mind, the reduction was over 60%. And just to sort of close this chapter a little bit, to give you a couple of numbers, I think you will get the presentation at the end, but I want to highlight the growth efficiency. I mean, we are in a single cycle configuration above 40% on the units, both in power generation and mechanical drive, which the SGT-750 is. The SGT-800 we use mainly for power generation. But then looking at the gross plant efficiency, then you go up to almost 55 on the SGT-750 and almost 61, and that's what I meant, 61 in combined cycle. This is usually 400 megawatt plus units that achieve this efficiency. And that, in retrospect, gives you then a very good CO2 reduction. Other emissions like NOx, I mean, we are, our units are on single digit, especially 750. The 800 is in the 15 to 25 ppm range, which is more than sufficient. So you're also buying future-proof products from a usual emission perspective. And now, last but not least, this is another way to decarbonize, and that's the fuels. So why are the fuels, whether it's done co-firing or whether you go completely towards carbon neutral or carbon free fuel, there are, when you sort of look at our roadmaps and what we are planning for the near term, is enormous. So that will future-proof your products you purchase from us. So having a look what we can achieve as of today. So hydrogen co-firing, 40 to 75%. With 75% hydrogen, half of the energy value is already coming from carbon-free fuel. Long term, and we will start with the SGT 800 on this, we will go 100%. And that's within the next 2 years. So whenever you are ready and see the needs, we are definitely. Other parts, when you look at the liquid phases, biodiesel, like HVO, we are already there. We have delivered the first plant last 1.5 years ago, and this is operating 100% HVO. Other units will follow, so my unit will follow in the near term by the end of the year. But we also look at sustainable aviation fuels, FAME, because we know that across the planet it will not one-fits-all solution. So we need to have fuel flexibility for the long term. And long term, I mean 10, 20, 30 years plus. And gas turbine will play a huge role in this. So we ensure that whatever assets you have or will have in the future will be future-proof. But going a little bit into what that means actually, in order to give you such a variety. Siemens Energy has, for the past 20 years, actually invested very heavily into dry low emission systems. Yes, we still do wet low emissions, but you can see from that, let's just focus on the negative side at the moment, yeah, from a dry low emission system, which is standard in all of our units. It's more difficult to develop. Fair enough, but we have done that already. So this is not anymore a negative part. No flame stability, it's solved. We have flame stability, we have over 99% reliability of our units, not an issue anymore. Look at the wet low emission systems, which are the systems sort of the 70s, 80s, where you use either steam or water in order to mitigate the emissions down. You have a high water consumption, and water will become more and more precious over the next decades to come. And therefore, our DNA are dry low emission systems. This is just to sum a little bit the background of the fuels. So all the fuels you have seen on the previous slide, which are carbon neutral or carbon free, will be operated in the long term in dry low emission systems. There's no way that you could do it any way different. And last but not least, a little bit of summary. I have a minute left, so I will just stretch towards the sustainability and future-proofing. And here, I mean, what the best combination of both worlds is a highly efficient gas turbine or combined cycle, which can be operated actually on very low lifetime cost and on various fuels. So also retrofitability in the future, when you see that your fuel shift will come a topic, and we will be there for you. Thank you so much, and I will hand over to my colleague.
Yeah, I believe